morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back to the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart and Midlothian. We do hope you are all good and well throughout this winter break. And even though it's absolutely freezing, temperatures are soaring to the negatives, but we'll let that be bygones and bygones. But we do hope you are all good and well. You're joined by myself and Alan, as I just said. Um, we're not obviously going to do any game reviews. To the sigh of relief from myself and Alan, so it'll be nice to talk about some headlines that have been going around throughout the last few weeks. Obviously, we weren't here last week due to me being away. We've got our first January signing through the door as well. Obviously, being the main headline, which we will talk about. Uh, this ever long month that just keeps dragging on with our striker and captain Lawrence Shankland. We'll talk a bit about him and the like apparent teams interested offers and that are apparently lined up, the usual pish. We've got some news as well, or some outgoings possibly as well, and we will look ahead to the return of Scottish football in general when we play Spartans away in the fourth round of the Scottish Cup. So we'll have a wee look ahead to that as well. So as always, guys, we do hope you enjoy. And as always, if you haven't subscribed through the YouTube channel of the podcast, please think of subscribing. And if you want to get in contact with us via our socials as well, you are more than welcome to do so. All will be in the description and on screen as always. So yes, Alan, as I said at the start there, our first and most likely our only signing throughout this window. I would presume, like unless something miraculous happens. Wolves right back Dexter Labiskia. Did I say that right? That time almost. Yeah, that's fine.
Close enough. Close
That's
enough.
fine. Obviously, we were looking for some backup in the right back section of the squad. We've done that, and obviously to back up Atkinson as well. Which we like sort of needed it. Like especially throughout this last 6 months, we've been quite light in that area. As I said at the start, on loan from Wolves, spent half a season at Rotherham, didn't particularly work out, and but we've like between Alan and myself, we've seen a few clips, and like it seems it was a decent enough, but obviously everybody will make up their mind once we see him on the pitch. So, 20 years young as well, so like a good hungry young player. So that's nice to see. So Alan, would you agree that he's maybe the only bit of transfer news we will do this month, saying as if that was the only sort of real part of the pitch we had to improve upon?
Yeah, I think so. I think Naismith spoke about he'd been asked about like transfer priorities and stuff, and he'd been asked for weeks, and they've said right back is an area that they need because obviously with Ofaya being the right back at the start of the season, or at least the right back cover at the start of the season, he then had to go back to Brighton due to health concerns, so it left us very light at right back. Especially a right back that has a similar profile to Natty Atkinson and how he plays because obviously we've seen Civic play at right back, we've seen Alan Forrest play at right back, we've seen there's probably been others as well that just don't jump out at me, but none of them have been able to sort of do the role the way that Atkinson does it. I know Atkinson has his critics and people that don't rate him and all the rest of it, but if you don't have a player that can do exactly the same thing, then you have to change it all the time. So this Dexter, I'm just going to stick with Dexter because I've tried to pronounce his name 3 or 4 times and I've said it different every single
Yeah,
time.
absolutely butchered his name and also.
Yeah, so no, I think he looks similar in terms of the profile of player to Atkinson. They asked him, they do the wee interviews when they first come in,
Yeah.
and he said that he was asked about his strengths and stuff, and he says he's quick and he likes 1v1s both defensively and going forward. Seen some clips predominantly of his time in the Wolves academy and stuff, because that's kind of where he's kind of risen, and they rate him very highly at Wolves. That's clear. I'm not sure if he's first team quality due to obviously the nature of the Premier League in England, but he's young and talented. he went out on loan to Rotherham, like you said, but it didn't work due to, I think, more an environment thing than anything else. I spoke to a Rotherham fan that I know, and she basically said that he tries hard, but he just maybe was a little bit out of his depth in terms of the challenge that Rotherham were in terms of a relegation battle that they're in the Championship just now. So having a young player in that sort of environment is not maybe not the best. But apparently, there's a lot of talk that he'll be better in a team that has the ball and is able to use it and give it to him. So hopefully we can do a bit of that. So yeah, no, it sounds like a bit of positive business, which is obviously always good. There was talk about Jan Danda as well potentially, but that's gone a bit quiet now.
Nah.
I don't know what you think, but like, I mean, I was encouraged when I heard that we were interested, but I totally back where the club are when they're saying, why would we pay a six-figure fee? Which, to be fair, County are well within their rights to ask for,
100%.
due to how important he is to them. Why would we pay six figures to get him now for a position that we probably do have enough cover in, albeit he would maybe be better than one or two of the options that we've already got, when we could just sit him down and ask him if he wants to join us in the summer for next season and get him on a pre-contract, which I think is probably the route that we'll go down, unless another club comes in and says, well, we'll happily pay the money now, because it'll depend whether we're okay with missing out on him now to get him in the summer, or if, as I say, if another club jumps ahead of us in the queue and says, well, we'd like him now, here's the money. But yeah, I don't think Danda comes in January. To be honest, as much as I would like him, I think we could probably do without him until the summertime. To be honest.
Aye, like I don't think there's necessarily an urgency to get him in. As you said, I think we have enough like sort of to cover, like especially when we're kind of playing, that kind of that like sort of front line, like let's say three, but like you've got one on the left, one on the right, like Shanks, like like in the center, like you've got like Vargas, you've got Forrest, you've got Lowry, you've got Ed Oda, like you know what I mean. So like I don't necessarily feel that it's a it's a part of the pitch we need to get like sort of get from if anything or like if anywhere I'd say like you'd maybe consider getting like a backup for Shanks, but even then like you don't. That's only like the only part of the pitch that I feel is if you bring somebody in for. But again, like worst case as well, like yeah, like he is still a lot to be desired. But to the Gawa, it's still like his the kind of backup to that. So yeah, like I don't think there's any point in spending like you're gonna say at least was it 500,000. So, like I'd say on Danda, which like again you're they're well with in the rights to I mean because from the performance that he put on against us, I know there was a lot of Hearts fans that piped up straight away and went back through all their tweets years ago saying I said so and rightly so, but no, I don't think in general, I don't think there's any need for us to do any more business throughout this month, unless it's players going out, uh, which probably are going to be the hardest part of this podcast again that I have to go through. Um, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, and I'm also interested to hear which clubs these actually are. I mean, who wouldn't want this man? So obviously Andy Halliday. The last time we were on, he was linked with Livingston, and you were telling me that he's now been linked with Motherwell as well. Now that they have Slattery injured as well, I guess he would be a good sort of backup for the central sort of mid as well. I'm curious, who were the other two clubs? Rangers.
So I imagine the homecoming of all homecomings.
Literally, the king has returned.
Well, Oh God, I think it was championship level. I'm sure. I can't
Right.
remember the top of my head. Let's see if I can just quickly scroll and find out for you.
Hmm.
Because yeah, there was there we go. So there was Livingston and Motherwell, and there was also Ayr and Hamilton had apparently asked about
Hmm.
his availability as
Yeah,
well. So
Hamilton makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, I think you're talking sort of central belt teams with like Livingston as well. You know, keeping them sort of relatively local because they won't have to move and all the rest of it. That's probably his preference as well. But yeah, it's one of those. I think Halliday is likely to go in January because
Hmm.
he's not played at all really
No.
for us, and obviously Naismith's put young players in front of him, which is what Naismith wants to do. Haring
Yeah.
has suffered for that reason as well, and it's one of those things like I can look back at certain games and think if we'd had Halliday available or Halliday off the bench might have been a bit of a decent option to have, because he's always done a job like without being glamorous and without being
No.
a blockbuster. He's done a job. He's been stable, and there have been moments in games where I've thought the bench looks a little bit weak. Maybe Halliday could have been an option.
No.
Not that I don't want to see the likes of Macaulay Tate and Aidan Denham come through because obviously they are the future sort of
Yeah.
midfielders that we're going to be looking at. But there's gaps in their game where Halliday doesn't have gaps in those areas, and when he's been covering sort of left back areas as well, we've seen a few situations with that where he could have been of use there as well. So yeah, I think Halliday's done very well at Hearts, and obviously will be forever remembered for that Edinburgh Derby,
Absolutely.
where he just decided to just step up and win it for us, whilst the Hibs fans were singing about him for a solid hour. So yeah, that was always nice. But yeah, I think Halliday it's in Halliday's best interests to move and get something somewhere else because he's not. I mean, I don't know how old Andy Halliday is, but he's not at an age where I would be thinking, oh, he's close to retirement. Put it that way. I think he must
I
be
know, like because
not
it is
late, late,
very
late
early, very.
twenties.
I that
Yeah,
very so.
I think he's late twenties, early 30s, maybe off the top of my head. I couldn't
Aye, but
honestly tell
still
you
though, I
because
think.
he's put it this way, he's not hanging up his boots tomorrow. Put it that
No.
way. So I think for his own good, he needs to go and play somewhere else. And if it means that we get the wage off the bill and free up a space in the team for a young player to maybe be promoted
Aye.
properly, because I think Aidan Denham is a part of the first team now, but I'm not sure if Macaulay Tate is. I think he's still playing sort of B team level, so it might be that he makes that step into the first team
Hmm.
squad. But then Naismith said not that long ago that the first team squad is quite large, so he might just move Halliday on and not think about replacing him by looking outside or even inside. It might just be we'll keep that space for the summer if we need to bring somebody in there, which I think we will do in the summer. But yeah, no, I think Halliday, the best thing for Halliday would be to go, and I think Motherwell, Motherwell would be a good move for him
Hmm.
because he'll play. But I mean, it's one of those. I reckon could he do a job at Motherwell? Probably. I think he'd probably do a better job at Livingston, but their pitch would be a worry if I was Halliday.
Hmm.
Just with his fitness and things like that, maybe wouldn't be the best for his knees. Um, so yeah, no. The nice thing is that there's options for him, so it's not as if he's just sitting at Hearts going, "Oh, I want to leave." Like there is genuine, available options that teams that actually want him. So that's a positive thing. So it wouldn't surprise me if he went in the not too distant future. In terms of other players that could go out, like we spoke about it last time, I think Haring is an option, but I think I've come around to the fact that Peter Haring might well stay to the end of the season and just be a squad option and used when we need him. Toby Sibbick, I think, is a similar situation with him, but then it'll depend if Toby Sibbick's happy with that.
Aye.
With Dexter coming in, that takes the right back position away from Sibbick, which is an area that he'd been filling in as well. So there might be some more movement there, but um, I don't expect there to be too much. And from what the club have sort of said, I don't think it's going to be a busy window,
No.
both incomings or outgoings. I think unless we found somebody that could drastically improve our starting 11, I don't think we're going to bring anybody in.
Yeah,
But
like
we'll
so.
we'll wait and see. But I think no, I was just going to say I think even in terms of outgoings, I don't think we'll be particularly busy, and I don't think we need to be honest.
Yeah, like I mean, so just going back to Holiday there, yeah, get us the natural progression. Like once you're like I kind of phased out the squad, and you see what Naismith is starting to actually do, like in terms of like you break the younger players through, like something that we've been talking about for years now. Like I mean, like with the like almost like the academy being alienated almost like as well, like from the first team squad. And now to see them start to like slowly break through, like Denham being like the obvious prospect. Like as you said, you've got Tate like I'm starting to like slowly break through. I was a Finlay Pollock as well. Like
Yeah.
like still like that we've like forgotten about. Harry Stone, you've got Nielsen like on loan at Partick as well. So like and just for like not to sound like you're too like sort of black and white about it, but like to free up a wage bill, like that can go to better use, like essentially, and then the actual player like is getting game time for somewhere else. I think like it makes sense. Halliday I can't see going this month. I agree with you that I don't think Haring will go. I think until the end of the season, I think it's probably better to be wise to have that like experience there, like because like you've seen like yourself as well. There's been games where you know like we've said before that the center of the park is where we have a bit of a luxury to actually choose um um who we want and what kind of like central like sort of mid like sort of play we actually want, like where like as we said, like we've got Denham, we've got Cammy, got Benny, got Haring, um like Import if we so choose, Halliday if he's still there, like you know what I mean. So like I
Yeah.
think like obviously the depending what teams we're up against as well, I think that's a role that we don't have to worry about. But yeah, I don't expect there to be you know any sort of like big like sort of transfers like throughout now until the end of the month, unless it's like something drastic. Then yeah, I don't expect to see any more action like as well throughout this um month as well. Which then brings back like to the ever so long rumors that are floating about. Probably the most talked about the is he in or is he out? Like sort of um, possible transfer of our captain Franklin, which like I'm sure that most fans would have saw that the board have put an offer on the table, described as the most lucrative offer Hearts can pretty much afford right now, which would to quote like I don't know who the quote came from, like I think it was like Talksport like or something that put it up, like saying like he would be the highest earner for a decade. Now the only issue that I have with that statement, right? So if we're talking about a decade, going back 10 years, right? I was like what 2013. So
Yeah.
and we were coming to the arse end of the championship season, or we'd only just got back into the championship season. Sorry, back up
Yeah.
in to the top flight. Who was the highest earner at that point? Fucking who?
I
like
don't know.
who?
I honestly don't know.
Like
I have no idea.
like so what does that mean? Because I'm gonna snatch you saying we were just starting to get back on track, but like whoever the highest earner was at that point, I want to know.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, and it is a bit of an
Right.
odd one. Like when I saw it as the sort of line that was put out, I saw it in the Evening News where it was Barry Anderson's article that he kind of broke the story that they'd offered a
Mm-hmm.
contract to Shankland, and it was described as that, that lucrative offer, as you say. I don't know where I sit on it. Well, I don't know where you sit on it. I know where I sit on it, to be honest. And I think that for me, like obviously, I absolutely adore Lauren Shankland, and I'm relatively relaxed about January when it comes to Shankland because the club have been very, very clear in their mindset of we're not letting him go in January
No.
unless it's an offer that we cannot refuse, and we're not in a position where we need to sell him. So I back the club on that front, and I'm happy to say right, they know what they're doing now, in terms of selling him in January, which that's why I don't think it'll happen. the deal on the table is a really, really interesting one though, because there's part of me that worries that we've maybe gone too big too early, and
Yeah, yeah, I get
it,
you.
it's
I get you.
not it's not that I wouldn't have done that, but I think to me, and again, this, people can probably tell me, and I have seen comments and I've had conversations with people about these things, but to me, like they said weeks and weeks and weeks ago before the January window had started that they were going to sit down, they were going to have a conversation with him in January and see where his head was at. So you hope they've had that conversation, and Shanklin's maybe said, "Yeah, I'll extend. I'm here. I'm happy, so I'll extend. But this is what I want." And maybe that's why the club have went, right. We'll give you a big offer because we know this is what you're after, and that's what we can do. So I'm hoping that's the case. But the flip side of it is, has he said, "Well, I'm going to see what comes up in January. I'm going to just assess my options, keep options open, and take it from there." And the club have went, right, well, we can't afford to lose him, so let's chuck a contract on the table now that he can't turn down.
Hmm.
It's, and I think as well, like, again, this is maybe just me with my cynical hat on, but to me, like, you always see it, like agents and players and all that. Very, very rarely do they accept the first offer that gets presented to them. So that's my only concern. If the club have put the best possible offer on a table for him, if he turns around and says, "Nah, I don't fancy it," what do we do then? Are we backed into a corner to say, right, well, if you're not going to sign it, this is when your value's at your highest, we'll let you go in January? Or do we say, right, well, you're not going anywhere till the summer? And then you might end up with a Lawrence Shanklin that's maybe not off form, but maybe not at his best for the second half of the season. So it's there's two sides to it, obviously. And I mean, I hope that my first thoughts of he's keen to stay and wants to hear what the club have got to say is the way it goes. But as we saw with like Gino as well, albeit Gino put in a brilliant performance in the last 6 months of his contract and then had
Wonder
options
why.
open to him in the summer. Yeah. But yeah, it's that way. Like the club said, "Oh, we made Gino our best offer and he chose to go elsewhere," which is fine. He's well within his rights to do. And I mean, as much as we love Laurie Shanklin and as much as he's carried us with his goals this season, he's well within his rights to look at other options if he wants to. Um, I hope he doesn't. I hope he knows how good he's got it at Hearts, because he does. He's the club captain. The fans love him. His teammates love him. He's in a stable place and he's playing every week and he's banging form. So you hope that that's enough for him to say, "Do you know what? I've got it good here.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll stay a little bit longer." I think the contract was apparently, I think it was to 2027. I think they were hoping to tie him down
Yeah.
till then.
Hmm.
So yeah, I really don't know which way it's going to go. There's part of me that thinks he'll stay, and part of me that thinks he'll stay and sign the contract, and part of me that thinks he'll stay but he won't extend.
Hmm.
But I can't read it enough to decide which way I think it'll definitely go.
Yeah, no, like I mean, like yourself, like I'm actually quite chilled about it. Like I don't like I can understand why people would think that we've maybe jumped the gun a bit too early in terms of offering the best possible contract extension we can. However, on the flip side of that, you know, if we've offered them the best that we possibly can, I don't think that's a bad thing, because then,
No.
if it happens to be that he doesn't fancy it, then both parties know where they stand. And
Yeah,
I know that you were like you were saying about, like, you're quite rightly so, about if he's to dip in form. However, that's not going to do favors for anybody, because obviously if he wants to do better, and like of course every player wants to do better for themselves, like like in their own career, but he's obviously got to keep up like his performances to actually get that move away.
yeah,
And like we were saying before January anyway, that you know if he doesn't go throughout this month, then most likely anyway he's going to be away during the summertime, or like at the very sort of very best case is that somebody gets him on a free at the end of 2025. So you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
not I don't. I think when you look at the overall picture, it's not actually as bad as everybody thinks. I don't
no,
throughout this month, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I don't see him going unless it's a ridiculous offer, like a
yeah,
ridiculous offer.
yeah,
The summertime is maybe more likely if he does stay, and you know, to be honest, then I like to think that if he doesn't accept the contract, then we can actually, well, I'd like to think, doing it as a different story, but I'd like to think that the recruitment team, Joe Savage, can then say, right, okay, like we both know where we stand now. We can actually get to work on trying to look for like a replacement that we can bring in throughout the summertime as well.
yeah.
So I don't think I don't think it's going to be as bad as everybody thinks if he doesn't accept it. All round, I think
Yeah,
it makes I think it makes it it was hard to interrupt on, but I think
no, no, you're
in
fine.
general, I think it makes sense for him to sign it because obviously with the Euros coming up as well, I think that's a massive factor as well. And I don't think it gets
Yeah,
taken for granted enough. He'll want to be there. Of course,
of
our
course.
only our second, I was a competition and in God knows when. Um, he's bang on form. The club absolutely adores him. He'll obviously want to score as many goals for himself, as well as the club. The
Yeah.
club captain, as you said as well. So, and if he's going to be the highest earner at the club, then that that kind of says something. So, I'm probably more inclined to think that he will sign it. But if he doesn't, I genuinely don't think that's a bad thing.
No, and I think just quickly before we move on to the
Yeah.
next thing, I think the point for me with Shankland is that I think the club putting it out there saying how lucrative this offer is and how, they hope that he signs it, etc. It shows that they've done something.
Hmm.
And, if Shankland were to turn around and say, actually, do you know what? I'd rather keep my options open. I'm keen to stay for now, but I'd rather, see things further down the road. At
That's
least the
fine.
club can say, well, do you know what? We did our bit.
Yeah.
We've tried to extend his contract, but yeah, like you, I'm very relaxed about it. Don't get me wrong. If a tweet notification popped up on my phone, I'd probably be through the roof or out the window
Of
if he
course.
signed. But we'll see what happens. But I don't expect him to go in January, and I've kind of kept that as my sort of mindset through the whole thing.
Absolutely, and as always, it'll be a long, sort of taking part of January, but I'm sure we'll get through it, no problems at all. So, for our last wee bit of the podcast, we'll do a wee look ahead to the Spartans game, but also I didn't even notice that I can tell you mentioned it, Alan, that when we bounce game hit against the Killy, where we won 2-1 as well. It was nice to see, as you when we were speaking off the chat as well, some of the injuries, always as ever, that are starting to come back as well. Um, I guess that's going to be my first question, and it's got to be a certainty as well. You have to put the big man back in goal, in between the six. You surely have to, for this game, no?
I hope so. I hope so. I
Yeah.
think it makes sense. He played 45 minutes. I think him and Clark got a half each against Kilmarnock. So that to me makes me think, right, they're gearing Gordon up for at least some sort of appearance against Spartans. I highly doubt we'll play 45 minutes each for each goalkeeper against Spartans.
Aye.
It would be revolutionary if we did, goalkeeper
I
for
know.
each half. But I think Gordon plays. I think, and it's like we said it last week or whenever it was, it's not a slight on Xander Clark. I just think that this game is the perfect game for Gordon to play.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he comes back in and is the number one for the rest of the season, but if he comes back in and plays in the Scottish Cup, even if Craig Gordon is the cup goalkeeper this season,
Yeah.
for,
Makes
for the
sense.
rent of the Scottish Cup campaign, like that would be good. But yeah, the friendly against Kilmarnock, it was away from home, and I can't remember the exact lineup, but there was a mixture of like youth and experience. Vargas got a goal, and young Forrester, who's apparently a right back or a right-sided player, according to the article that I read, he scored another goal in the game. We had Benny played a little bit, Halkett played a little bit. Obviously, Gordon and Clark had 45 minutes each. I think Shanklin played a little bit. There's been a few players that were on holiday in Dubai during the winter break, and Shanklin was one of those, as was Xander Clark actually. And I think Frankie Kent was there, and Barry Mackay and Alex Lowry. But yeah, there was a few of them that went across to Dubai during the winter break. In terms of injuries, Naismith said that the majority of the squad is back or will be back in the next few weeks. I think the only sort of long term or longer term one is Barry Mackay, that we're not sure of when he'll be back. Alex Lowry had a back problem, and Cammy Devlin's had a knock for weeks now, but I think they're starting to clear up, which is good.
Mm.
Obviously, when the league, obviously the Spartans game's a big game, but for cup progression. But when the league comes back, we play Dundee on the Tuesday night after the Spartans game on the Saturday. So you want to have as many of your players back fit and ready to go, and hopefully ready to attack the second half of the season, and put us in a position where third place is looking likely. Um, but yeah, it's nice to have a wee friendly just to get minutes back in the legs before the big stuff starts again on Saturday.
Yeah, like I mean, yeah, like, I don't like I know that it always goes like without saying that like when you watch the cup competitions like the Carabao or the FA Cup you always see you're in the early rounds, especially these teams playing like it almost like they're the second 11, but like I think what most people have to remind themselves especially up here in the Scottish League is that like a lot of teams don't have the luxury to do that. Um,
Yeah,
However, I mean we probably could field a separate team, but at the same time, I think I genuinely think since the Brora incident, I think that's kind of a wee friendly reminder of what can happen, when you're underestimating not smaller teams, but less bigger teams as such.
yeah,
I don't think Spartans is a team to take for granted. I think as always, as the underdogs, they've got absolutely nothing to lose.
yeah,
I think you have to find that right mix. It goes without saying.
yeah,
Yeah, I would love the Gordon to start. I think, as you said, I think it's the right game for him to play. Um, but again, I wouldn't be shocked if the Clark was in goal. Again, he's not done wrong. He's done well, in terms of the clean sheets. Um,
yeah,
and in terms of the rest of the squad, yeah, again, I think you have to find that balance. For me, players such as Denham, for example, I think he should be a starter because we've seen the
yeah,
odd game where he has started. It's made sense. He's done well. Players yeah, you could start players Tate, but again, if that's just for the sake of starting them, and because it's lower sort of sort of down the rounds for a cup game. I
yeah,
still think you should start players such as Shanklin, Kent, Cochrane, for example, those
yeah,
sort of key players that have been you your more sort of consistent performers, let's say, I think should
yeah,
be starting. I think players such as maybe Ed Oda, for example, you know, I mean, to be honest, if he's still here, throw in fucking Holiday, I mean,
yeah,
those are the kind of players that should be playing. But I think for your key roles, like personally, I think they should be starting for the players that I just mentioned there.
yeah. No, I think you're right. I think chances are we'll probably see Dexter play it right back. Just obviously new in the door needs to get the minutes in. And the one thing I didn't mention about him earlier, is that it's good that he's played half a season with Rotherham. He played a lot
Mm-hmm.
of games for them, so he's fit and ready to go, which is a big plus. But yeah, like you, I think we'll probably have a good balance. I think we'll probably have maybe Toby Sibbick will play because obviously he's not
Mm.
played a lot recently. Maybe Halliday, maybe Haring, maybe Denham. Players like that. Oda's not really. I mean, he's featured, but he's not really started a lot recently.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if he was in there. I did think about Connor Smith because he's come back from a loan. However,
Yeah. That was a player that we
I
didn't even mention. No?
yeah, he was down south on loan, but they wanted to sign him permanently, but they weren't able to due to some transfer embargo or some league
Mm.
rule or something. So he's come back up the road, but I would have put him straight in the team for Spartans, but apparently Naismith said that the plan is to loan him out again for the second half of the season.
Mm.
But he's another one whose contract's up at the end of the season. So if we're
Yeah.
going to loan him out again, it might be right, cheerio. You're not going to make the grade with Hearts, and I don't think he will. As much as I like him, I don't think he's going to make that grade to be a first team player, which is a shame because he's been around for a while. But that in itself kind of points to he's maybe not quite got it. Um, and I think if he was to play against Spartans, he would have played for two teams in a calendar year, which would then mean we wouldn't be able to loan him out again because you can't play for three in 1 year, apparently, which is something I just learned recently. It's quite
Thank you,
strange.
man.
Yeah, I know. But so I would be very, very surprised if Connor Smith was involved purely for that reason. But yeah, I reckon go as strong as we need to go.
Yeah.
Maybe Vargas, Tagawa, maybe up front if you're going to put Shankland on the bench. The thing we have to be wary of as well is that Ainsley Park is an artificial pitch as well. So
Oh, of course it is.
there's
Yeah.
an element, yeah, there's an element of not wanting to risk too much if
Mm.
you can help it. Um, it's funny, you could either go one way and play all the youth off the start and then bring the experienced heads on towards the end, or you bring on the youth towards the end, which I would rather do. I'd rather the game was out of sight and then we bring
Yeah.
on players like Tate, Pollock, whoever else, whichever other young players get on the bench for that game. Because I reckon we'll probably see a few on the bench for it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's a cup tie. You can't take them lightly. Naismith, some will say Naismith needs a cup run for fans to really start backing him and being like, yeah, this is our guy. So that he'll know that, and it'll take a bit of pressure off him if we get through to the next round of the cup. Which, yeah, I think regardless of what way we go, be it youth or experience, I think you have to say we're favourites for it.
Mm.
Obviously, um, it'll be an interesting atmosphere at Ainsley Park. I think they've sold something like 2,000 Hearts tickets or something, so it's going to be a
Good
tight
stuff.
squeeze based off the
Of
facilities down
course.
there. But yeah, it's Scottish Cup. There's something special about the Scottish Cup. It's a great competition, and you just want to win it. You want to get through. So yeah, hopefully the team, whoever it is, are up for it because we know, and Aberdeen is a prime example, losing in the previous, well, was it last season,
Yeah.
when they lost to Darwell. You don't want to be the cup upset of a round because people talk about it for a long time, as we know
Mm.
from Brora as well.
I
You
know.
don't want to be that team that loses a cup against a lower league opposition. So that in itself should be enough to motivate whoever plays for Hearts on the day to get the win.
I should think so as well. And just to wrap things off, can I have a score prediction, please?
I will go for 3-0 Hearts.
Fucking hell! Like,
That's
see,
my.
like we're
Did I
intertwined.
read your
Like
mind?
intertwined, sir. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that as well. And I said that comfortable 3-0. But it will be an
Yeah.
interesting read to see who's on the starting lineup and on the bench as well. And also just a quick friendly reminder as well is that it is a 12:15 the kickoff. So I hope plans are up nice and early for the Saturday as well. So yeah, I think that brings us to the end of the 103rd episode of the Since Aboriginal podcast. So we do hope you have enjoyed this nice wee chat. And as we said at the start, if you haven't subscribed yet, please think about subscribing for the YouTube channel. And if you want to get in contact with us about your thoughts for the starting lineup against Spartans, please feel free to pop all your thoughts in as well. And if you think Shankland is more likely to pen a deal than not. We would love to hear all your thoughts on everything we've talked about for this afternoon. So for all the fans making the short trip um, um, to the game on Saturday, we do hope you have a good one, and we will see you in the next one. So from myself and Alan, y'all take care. Bye for now.